Well, greetings back here from Pennsylvania, everybody. I'm Bill from Maksim Outdoors, and I'm bringing you to yet another new state park on what I'm calling my unintended road trip here. So stayed in Lynn Run the last couple nights, somehow ended up in Gettysburg last night, and wanted to see what the closest state park to Gettysburg was. And it just so happened to be this Codorus State Park that really know nothing about, to be honest. I do know that we are looking here at Lake Marburg, and apparently there's a town underneath this lake somewhere. So kind of an interesting fact. And we're here in York County. I think my first time ever in York County, down in southeastern Pennsylvania, probably just a couple minutes away from Philadelphia, like a half an hour or so. But yeah, here's a nice look at the frozen over Lake Marburg here. And it's currently December 29th, so we're winding down 2022, even though you'll see this in 2023. So yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time here at this park today. I have to get all the way back to western Pennsylvania at some point, but I'm not going to rush it either. So the plan today is there is a pretty short trail. It's a little under 2 miles that takes you to a very old cemetery, probably one of the oldest cemeteries I've checked out yet. So apparently there is a grave there from like the 1750s, I want to say. So that's the goal for the day. I kind of just want to drive around the lake and show you guys some of the views. You can see a little bit of the lake isn't all frozen over yet, but yeah, that's the goal. We're gonna take a nice little scenic drive around the lake and go hike to an old cemetery. So that's the plan today. This is State Park 20. If you're new to this channel, make sure you go back and check out some of the other state parks I've seen all around Pennsylvania. So, all right, guys. Last look here from this little, I don't even know what this is, like a canoe launch here at Codorus State Park. All right, let's go. Well, my first stop here at Codorus State Park. I already got my first ID here. There's looks like a male cardinal and a female cardinal. So we'll add that to the ID list for the year. See how long they hang out there for. So the male is the one directly in front of us, and the female is hopping towards him on the left there. The males are primarily, you know, the normal red cardinal color, and the females tend to be like a darker or a lighter brown, almost kind of red with like a crest coming up, you can see. So yeah, we'll see if we can get a little closer here to them. But new ID for a new state park here. Well, I drove pretty much right across the road here, and as you can see, this side of the lake isn't as frozen. So another nice look at Lake Marburg here. Fish are even jumping out in this frigid weather. But a little bit more history about this lake in the park. So back in the 50s, there was a village, a town down here, the town of Marburg, as I said before. And there was around 40 buildings, I guess churches, schools, houses, you name it. And they basically came through this area, decided they were going to build the dam back in the 50s, and leveled every single one of those buildings. So the only thing that is still standing underneath this water would be like the old roads and some of the infrastructure, but pretty crazy to think. And why did they do that, you might ask? Well, there's a guy that went by the name of Maurice Goddard, which he actually has his own state park, Maurice Goddard State Park, that we'll be heading to eventually. And his goal for Pennsylvania, he was a big environmentalist. He wanted everybody in the state of Pennsylvania to be within 25 miles of a state park. So back in the 50s, he really pushed this forward and established a lot of newer state parks, including this one, just for the fact that he wanted everybody to be within 25 miles of a state park. So, you know, unfortunately, the town of Marburg, you know, was destroyed because of that notion. But now we have this beautiful lake in this state park here. So a little bit more history about how this park came to be, and a little bit about Maurice Goddard that we'll be talking about eventually when we go to that state park. But yeah, fairly decent sized state park. It's 3,500 acres, established back in the 50s. And this park has everything you can imagine, everything from fishing, kayaking, canoeing. And it's one of the only state parks that I've been to that has dedicated mountain bike trails. So if you like mountain biking, getting out and doing stuff like that, they have I think about 5 miles of trails for that, as well as equestrian trails. So I was reading a little article, they said this state park has everything, and you can really see why. So all right, I think I'm gonna try to find the office, which I believe is that orange building up there, just to get a map, because I'm kind of just winging it right now. But beautiful December morning here. It's already warming up. It's about 36 degrees. So yeah, I'm gonna do one more time lapse and we'll head up to the office here. So a little history for you guys. All right, guys, well, enough talking about the lake. Just made it here to the trailhead. As you can see over there, it says Laho Trail Parking. So we're gonna be doing about 2 miles today and heading to an old burial ground or cemetery known as the Mannheim Union Cemetery. So like I said, about 2 miles. Beautiful morning to do it. So what do you say? Let's check an old cemetery off the list today. Only a couple minutes into this trail. In fact, you can still see my truck there through the woods, but so far the views have been pretty excellent. You can kind of tell that the lake here has been drawn down for the year. I'm sure normally the waters would be a little higher, but they tend to do that with these larger lakes this time of year. I did want to say This park is relatively close to a pretty large city or town, the town of Hanover. So it doesn't really quite feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, as you can hear a lot of train noises as well as traffic noises. But absolutely beautiful park so far. Pretty much have this entire area all to myself, besides the occasional fishermen that I've seen out on boats. But so far so good for Thursday morning. And I did do a little reading about this cemetery here. You can park pretty much right at it, but what fun would that be? So we're going to take a little stroll here through the woods and do a little winter hiking. From what I read, back whenever they first built the dam here and dammed Codorus Creek, where this park gets its name from, they were worried about the dam or the water rising too high and submerging some of the cemeteries and other local things in this area. So from what I understand, I guess they moved the graves and the tombstones to where we're hiking today. So you know, if there were some restless spirits out there, I would think you know, that would be a reason to be a little angry if you were dug up since being buried since the 1700s and moved, you know, back in the 60s. So that's another thing I got wrong. I said this park was established back in the 50s. It was actually established back in 1966. So a little bit more information for you guys. I'm learning with you. I've never been here, never even been to York County before. And one other thing, I was driving through Hanover, and if there's anybody that's familiar with Hanover, what is the world famous wiener lunch? I saw that first thing this morning and kind of scratched my head at that. So anyway, beautiful trail so far, and it looks like we're gonna head right down towards Lake Marburg here. So stay tuned. You gotta love little streams like this that kind of just cut through the landscape like this. Kind of gives you a little idea of, you know, what the Grand Canyon did way back in the day. Obviously nowhere near on the same scale, but you can see how this is just cutting through all the soil here. I was just looking at the map though, so we kind of followed this cove up, you know, where we are now, but we'll actually be on the other side of this cove. So if you want to do this trail or want to get a better idea of it, we're gonna hike all the way down and around and then back around that side, and then we'll hike across a bridge at the very end. But the cemetery should be back in this area somewhere, so we're getting closer. All right, so there's a little spur trail, if you want to call it that. The Laho Trail heads up that way. We came from this way, and what I'm on now would have been the old road that would have taken you down to the cemetery, you know, back in the day. Not sure, like I said, I know a lot of the graves were moved, so I don't know if this was like the original location of the cemetery. Maybe the cemetery was a little further down towards the lake and they moved it up a little bit, but this would have essentially been where they would have, you know, brought the bodies down this road and buried them here shortly down from where we are right now. So let's see what we can find here. I did read that this graveyard is pretty overgrown during the summer, but that seems pretty typical with state parks. For whatever reason, they don't take the best of care with these graveyards, like we've seen down in Ryerson State Park as well. But yeah, it should be up here on the left here, I believe. All right, well, I believe we found the entrance. Pretty ominous looking staircase heading up. And then you could look down this old road here that probably would have cut back towards where the lake is now. You know, back in the 1800s, 1700s, that lake obviously wouldn't have been there. But yeah, you can imagine horse and carriages and, you know, buggies coming down here way back in the day, bringing loved ones down here to ultimately get laid to rest. So let's go check out the Mannheim Cemetery. All right, well, here we are. Not really what I was expecting, but I did read a little bit about this. So apparently vandalism was pretty bad in this area, and a lot of people would come up here, steal graves. Obviously they broke a lot of them, so they just made this makeshift tombstone with all the names of the buried here, and did their best to find all the broken pieces that were left behind by the people that broke them, or just from the weather, you know, destroying them. These are some old stones here, obviously, from some of them from the 1700s. So yeah, did read there's about 35 people buried here. So you can see there, George Lechner was buried in 1790. Some of them don't even have the year they were born, as you can see. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. I've never seen a gravesite like this, where just kind of I don't know, a pile up of tombstones here. Another thing, I'm not sure if this is the actual cemetery here or if they were moved up here from when they filled the lake in, but judging by this staircase and these old obelisks, I would say this is most likely the burial site here. So yeah, definitely interesting. All right, yeah, so one last look here at Mannheim Union Cemetery here. And I did come up with the theory that these were all moved back in the 60s. You can see the concrete pad that they poured here. And you can see they kind of put the tombstones all into the concrete. And then somewhere between now and 1960, it looks like somebody just came up here and unfortunately busted these all out of the concrete here. Another interesting thing is a lot of these were German settlers. You can see where it says in German. I did read about that. So another kind of cool thing to think about is, you know, all these folks out here, they were living out in this area with the I believe it was like the Susquehannock Indians. So I'm sure there were quite a few clashes with them, fighting over this area and whatnot. But yeah, one last look here at the Mannheim Union Burial Ground. Definitely could use a little TLC, but you know, it'd be pretty tough to repair some of these tombstones. Makes you wonder how much longer some of these sites are going to be around, just because you know, idiots that come out here and do stuff like this. But that's why I make these videos, so people can look back and see this in, you know, 20 years, and hopefully somebody is watching this in, you know, 20 or 100 years from now. That'd be cool to think. So all right, we're gonna move on here and head all the way back around this little cove here, and that'll be the day. Probably show you a little bit more of the lake, and that'll be it. And I'll have a 4-hour drive back to Western Pennsylvania. All right, guys. Well, here's a pretty awesome view back in this cove here. So right now we are pretty much directly across from the cemetery. The cemetery will be right in that area, and that's that old road that cuts down. But looks like this might have been an old, oh, you know what, this is actually the road that cuts across the lake here. So all right, we solved that mystery. So that road would have came through here and back up through this valley, and you know, whenever they filled this lake in, that was the end of this road, as well as the cemetery, which would have been, I'm guessing, somewhere down in this area. You can see some of the stones sticking up out of the ice. That's how shallow it is back here, as well as some stumps and whatnot. So yeah, we're getting there. We're well over halfway now, but figured I would show you this. So yeah, this would have been the old cemetery road here that horse and buggy would have went up and down. Well, you know, this park was established back in the 60s, so I'm guessing probably even automobiles would have used this road back until you know, they decided to fill this lake in. So a little bit of history here for you. All right, well, here we are, made it back to the roadway. All I have to do is cross that bridge, and that will wrap up this trail for the day. But I'm not going to end this video yet, being that this state park is, you know, almost 4 hours away from me. Got to try to show you as much as I can. So I did see on the map that there are a couple scenic overlooks, or just cool vistas or something of the lake. So I'm going to go there, and we'll see what happens from there on out. So let's go take a ride to another spot on the lake here. All right, guys, well, one last look here at beautiful Codorus State Park before we hit the road. So the hike that we did actually was back in that channel straight ahead. That's a little island that we're looking at, but this is Smith Point Overlook, one of the scenic vistas here. I guess a frequent spot for bald eagles to fly through. There's actually a bald eagle nest just a couple hundred feet down from me. But yeah, what an awesome day. Still got a 4-hour drive ahead of me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. This trip had everything from waterfalls to wildlife to ruins to cemeteries, you name it, and some beautiful views like this. So state park number 20, Codorus State Park. Hopefully you guys had some fun checking out an old cemetery with me today. And as always, if you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Helps me out a lot. Like the video, leave me a comment, tell me what you think about this park, tell me your favorite state park, and see me on Instagram and Facebook for some behind the scenes photos and stuff from upcoming trips. All right, I will see you at probably an all new state park next week, and you'll just have to wait and see where I head next. All right, guys, Maksim Outdoors signing out.